Let's get it back to football.
Let's get it back to a man who made a major announcement on Twitter this morning. Before he even contacted us, he went right to Twitter at John McMullen, Harry. And what did he do? He posted breaking news. Now, do you have the original? He basically released his own news release.
Yeah, he's like an athlete. Is really what he did here, Tony.
He doesn't need any PR people.
Right.
He doesn't need his representative to put a statement together. He just put it out there.
He says football at 4, which is a hashtag, is going 24/7 at Jacob Media, at Krause Joe, at Sirius. He copied everybody in on this.
Everybody. Even Roger Goodell's been copied in on this. It's sweeping the entire nation.
And he's got his own logo.
NFL football 24/7. How is he going to stay awake? I don't know how he can do it. I can't do 24/7 anymore. But he is the great John McMullen.
Off suspension.
Off suspension. We brought him in a day earlier, even though I banned him until Tuesday of last week. After he, what was the infraction last week, John, where I said you're not going to be back on until the following Tuesday?
That was a specious and capricious banning because I didn't give you the information on the schedule about Philadelphia visiting Green Bay.
Exactly.
But that was your spin, my spin, and my lawyers assure me that I gave you that information, so how could you say I withheld it?
We're going to have to go back to the tape and dissect it one day when we have nothing else to talk about, and we'll break down exactly, because I said I knew the Eagles were going to play Green Bay, and I said I hope it's in December, because I've never been to December in the wintertime, and it's not winter, it's still, there's a better potential of snow in Green Bay in December than there is in September, and then Harry and I got into a fight about which is better, and then I decided because, this was out of control, and we won't allow this to happen on this program, but we now have brought you back early.
I went ahead and contacted Chief Justice Roberts. He's on my side. So I don't think you have any leg to stand on.
We don't have a case? Is that what you're saying?
There's no case.
Not a case at all.
Even though, maybe because I haven't shaved, maybe I'm starting to feel like Governor Tom Wolf of New Jersey.
Starting to look like him.
And I'm starting to look like him, where I arbitrarily...
That's Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania. We're Phil Murphy.
Phil Murphy.
No, I'm talking about my state of Pennsylvania. New Jersey, you have your own problems. A lot of states have problems. But I'm trying to pretend that I'm going to tell everybody how it works without having to pass any laws. I'm going to tell you, John, you are banned, and I banned you till Tuesday because that's how I work, because I don't need a legislative decision. I can arbitrarily.
You are in charge, but you can decree. You can decree it. I agree with that.
It's an executive order.
No, I don't even have to sign one. I can just say it.
Oh, okay.
So it's written, so let it be done. So let it be written, so let it be done. John, congratulations now. You are internationally known. And all these people on the Twitch stream who were trying to say that you were just some local yokel guy, they must kneel.
Well, that's why the Twitch stream dislikes me, because I was a national guy before I was a local guy. But there's this weird assumption that if you cover a team, and wherever it is, I happen to be in the Philadelphia area, so I'd be covering the Eagles, that you're a fan of that team. So many people assume I'm a fan of the Eagles. I can assure you, the Eagles do not think that. I can assure you that's not the case.
But because you're absolutely right, because there are a lot of people on ESPN and Fox and everything who are local beat writers or local reporters or local columnists who then talk about every team in the NFL. Adam Schefter was doing that. All of these guys did it. So I think it's mostly people busting your chops, John, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, you have to. You have to give the people what they want.
Exactly.
As I said, I enjoy playing the heel. I have a thick skin. Somebody called me Bastion Booger last week. Still, it affected me. That one hurt a little bit.
Was he a wrestler?
Yeah, he was a wrestler.
That's offensive, but it's also offensive that anybody would actually remember fringe wrestlers from back in the day.
That is offensive. If you're going to throw out wrestlers, you got to throw out Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Randy Savage. You got to throw out that ilk.
Exactly. We don't want any of those jobbers, as we call them here. Guys who just go out to lose.
Like Frankie Williams back in the day, that guy.
The unpredictable Johnny Rod.
Yeah.
All right, before we break down Money in the Bank, because I'm sure you watched both of them, John, over the weekend, let's get it back to football. The NFL, we don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what the hell they're doing. We talked a little about Monday Night Football, but right now we know baseball owners have already approved a restart for baseball in July. That has to be worked out. What the hell is going on with the National Football League, John?
Yeah, well, obviously with the schedule release, you're feigning this business as usual type of mentality, which, at this standpoint of the calendar, I think they have to do. I think that's the prudent thing to do. But you have this other sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, a wave. I mean, Peter King, again, talking to Dr. Fauci for his morning column this week, saying, the virus will essentially make the decision. And I think if you look at this thing logically, and I called it, I said today, you got to put down your ideological swords. You got to forget who your favorite politician is. If you're looking for perfect, you're never going to get perfect. So if that's what you're waiting for, we're not going to play baseball. We're not going to play basketball. We're not going to play football. It's not going to happen. So I at some point, somebody's got to step forward and be pragmatic and say, look, I hate to point out Dana White. A lot of people don't like him. They ran UFC, whatever it was, 249 over the weekend.
Yeah.
Somebody tested positive. They went ahead with the card. We're all sitting back. We don't have sports. Everybody's watching the Michael Jordan documentary. Now, I hesitate to say this, guys, but I'm going to say it. I'm not comparing the flu with coronavirus, but think about things that are infectious. We look at Michael Jordan. We lionize him for the flu game. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? He could have infected his teammates. Mm-hmm. I got news for you. So my point being is if you're looking for perfect, you're not getting perfect. And who's in the best shape of all of us, in theory? Professional athletes.
Right.
They should be the least likely to have something really horrible happen with this particular disease.
Right.
Are people going to make sense? Are they going to get pragmatic, or are they going to wait for perfect? Because perfect's not happening.
It's not happening, and there's no guarantee of a vaccine.
And the other thing is that Dr. Fauci now, I guess, is the commissioner of the National Football League, too. I mean, he's being interviewed, and he's asked...
In quarantine, by the way.
Yeah, he's in quarantine town. But I saw he did an interview with NBC, and I took a couple of notes down from it. And listen, I respect the guy. He obviously knows, but he's been wrong. But he's been wrong so many times based on projections from this health and science community. That's who I listen to. But he said today that the NFL season will be entirely dependent on how we respond to the inevitable outbreak in the fall.
Inevitable.
How is it inevitable?
Right.
Do we know for a fact that it's inevitable? Yes, there'll be another flu season because there is every year. But is it inevitable that this virus is going to rear its ugly head again in the fall, so therefore we can't play sports again in the fall?
Well, and I think it is inevitable that it's going to rear its ugly head. But the part you said last, Tony, is the part you got to deal with. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to shut down life for the rest of existence? Because that's what I'm trying to get across. The flu has been around for a really, really long time. You're not going to stamp it out. You're not going to stamp out this virus, and I think that's what he was trying to say. So how do you deal with the virus? How do you move forward? How do you go down the best path possible? If you look about this, social distancing, quarantine, originally you go all the way back to the start of it. What was supposed to do? Flatten the curve so that our hospitals
wouldn't be overwhelmed.
Overrun.
Yeah.
And then they moved the goalposts. And now it's back to they were never overwhelmed. They're not going to be overwhelmed. And now it's, we got to wait until we stamp this virus out. You're not stamping this virus out. So, again, look, you have to, and I compare it to coaching in a lot of ways. The definition of great coaching is taking what's in front of you, what's put in front of you, and getting the most out of it. So you have to look at this situation and say, okay, this is a pretty bad situation, but what is the best path forward? Is the best path forward completely shutting down life for a time that we can't even imagine 2-3 years down the line? Are we going to shut everything down? I don't know. I don't think that's the best way to go about this.
And the amazing thing, John, is, again, I don't know. You don't know. Harry doesn't know. Robin certainly doesn't know, even though she has family that's in the epidemiology field, is if we can't trust, and again, it's not that we don't trust them, it's just that they're not giving us accurate, and they give us what they think is accurate, but they're projections. It's like us making football picks based on the schedule release on what games teams are going to win. We're projecting who we think's going to win. These doctors are using the known science, but and again, I get my information now from two sources. Peter King. When Peter King says it's okay that they can go back and play football, then I guess I'll decide that that's the way I'm going to go. I have to find one person who's going to give me the guidance that I need because he's all-knowing and all-seeing.
Well, and I hate to pick on Peter because he's a very nice man. But
I love Peter King. I've known him forever.
He took a really sharp left turn a number of years ago. There's nothing wrong with that. You can believe what you want to believe. But if you are going to take your advice from Peter King, understand you're not going to play football this year.
No.
You're just not, because at some point, think about NFL teams, even compared, we just talked about UFC fights, even compared to baseball teams, basketball teams. You're talking about 53 guys on the roster. You're going to have 12 on the practice squad now, so you're up to 65. You got 20-man coaching staff. That's 85. You got support staff. Somebody's going to test positive at some point. And if you're going to say, okay, somebody tested, we gotta shut this thing down for 2 weeks, then what? You're going to ramp it up again and shut it down again? It's just not possible. And I think not enough people use common sense. I say it all the time. Common sense is not common in this country any longer, and it's pretty sad.
John McMullen. And again, these are opinions, and again, this is John's job. So it's not like John doesn't want to work for the next 2 years. John wants to work, and he's not telling everybody to go out to work. I have to explain it slowly for the morons on Twitter and social media who think that we're forcing people. It's funny. We have politicians who we have politicians who are forcing people to stay inside where the majority of the deaths are occurring, and yet we can't give an opinion on hoping that sports returns safely without being considered nutcases. That's the way. There's no in between, John. You're either open the damn country,
and you're a grandma killer,
or you're a grandma, or nobody can ever wait. We have to wait 2 years for a vaccine so Peter King can feel safe enough to go back and do Sunday night football.
And
Come
that's
on.
why I say, I try to tell people, I don't care who your favorite politician is. I don't give a damn. I don't care if your favorite color is blue or red. It isn't about going back to work. I've been working this entire time. I've been lucky enough to cover football, which has been going about business as usual, so this is an off season. But there have been so many people who've lost their jobs, not just in journalism, but in other aspects. And the old thing is, when the solution is worse than the problem, I always talk about these projections that Tony mentioned. Does anybody have a projection of 30% unemployment, what that's going to do to the death rate in this country? Because I'd like to see that projection.
Yeah.
Well, I saw the projection. 75,000 people in this country will commit suicide this year because of their depression, about not having a job, about life, about having the TV on, which I turn off all day.
75,000 more than normal?
Yeah, not COVID deaths.
Okay.
These are people who will die from depression, alcoholism.
By the way, I don't believe that projection either.
No,
but my point is, nobody can give me a concrete number, and you don't know how this is affecting people already. Their mental state, the fact that they can't support their families, all that kind of stuff. And I do think it's a certain group that is, let's be honest, they're well off. It hasn't affected them as much because they're capable of working at home, and they haven't lost their jobs. And the vast majority of this country is on paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's how they go about things. And I think, I think those people have been largely forgotten by elites in this country, to be perfectly honest. And people like me who are paid to get their opinion, we give our opinion.
Exactly. And it's not about politics with us. I don't care who you like and who you don't like. I think all politicians are corrupt. I think the governors and the states are determining that they're in charge, and then people when they say stay at home, and some people don't want to stay at home, they're the criminals. And you don't make law. You don't make law when you are in charge. You have to have legislation. That's why these states are being sued. That's why people like Gavin Newsom got sued, and then he had to back off on some of the things. Because then people have to get lawyers to sue the state for their civil rights, which are being violated, because the governors don't have the authority to pass laws unanimously. And so what happens? Somebody sues, a civil rights group will sue a state, and it's going to happen here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. When governors tell you you can go to the beach to swim, New Jersey, your state, John, your governor says it is okay.
This is confusing.
Did you see the list of things you can do on the beach? You can walk, run, exercise, surf, and fish. But you can't bring a chair out to fish.
You can't sunbathe.
And
either.
you can't. No. So these are things you can do.
Oh.
You can fish, but you can't have a chair. Then these are things you can't do. Sunbathe, sit in a chair on the beach, have a group sports session or a group of people, and no swimming. So let's get this straight. You can go surfing, which requires you to take a big board into the water, paddle out, and then surf in if there's a wave.
Wait for your wave.
But if you're on a surfboard, so here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help Governor Murphy, New Jersey. So you get a surfboard, you take your fishing rod, and then you put your fishing rod on your surfboard, and then you paddle out and stand up because you can't sit on that surfboard.
That's tough to do, Tony.
And fish.
That is tough to do.
No, but that's what people do when they do the paddle boarding. They stand up on a paddle.
Not easy.
No, but here's the point, John. If you do this, you want to go fishing this weekend, you get your surfboard, you go out and you stand up on it. If you sit down on it, then you're violating it. And if you stand up and you're fishing, it's okay. But if you sit down and you're fishing on your surfboard, and if you stand up and you're fishing, which is legal, but then you fall into the ocean.
Then you're swimming.
And then you're swimming, and then the police boat will come and arrest you and throw you in jail and keep you locked up in the music pier on the Ocean City Boardwalk until Memorial Day weekend, which will be 14 days after you just broke the law, and then you'll be released.
Which is, further ironic than that is they're releasing people from jail because they don't want it. They don't want it to further explode with the jail population.
Right.
So you're letting prisoners out and putting people back in prison.
And so we have a guy on the Twitch stream who's a typical example of what I'm talking about. People who want to open up the country immediately and go back to normal are putting their selfish interests ahead of people. No, I'm not. If you want to stay inside, you stay the hell inside. If you're too scared, stay the hell inside. I don't even want to see your faces on the street. If I see your face on the street, I'm going to come after you.
You better have a mask on.
You better have a damn mask on.
I think another irony to it all is you have this group of people that has done what they've been told to do, and they self-quarantine. And every time they see a picture on social media or on the news about people gathering on beaches somewhere in the country, people gathering in large groups and not practicing social distancing, they're shocked by it. And the assumption is that everybody's like them and has been doing this the entire time. When the entire time this has been going on, there have been people who have ignored it and just gone about their life as best they can. Now, you can say that's dumb. I'm not even going to argue with that. It might very well be dumb. But your assumption that everyone is living like you, and that's why we've succeeded to the point where we've succeeded when you're talking about flattening the curve, even that's not correct. That's assuming everyone's acting like you, and we have proof, empirical proof, that's not true.
All right, enough about this, John, because I don't want people, because people are extreme on either side, and there's no middle ground anymore.
Exactly.
And it's got to be you're in favor of people dying, or you're in favor of putting people in a house with a bunch of people who, by the way, are dying in bigger numbers than people who go outside. So you can take whatever approach you want. If you want to go there, as long as the sports books open up and we have lines and we have sports.
Right, and something to bet on.
And the players take care of themselves and are protected because they will be, because they'll get the testing. And if you're crying about there's no sports, but you're crying about athletes will get testing, and Joe Schmo sitting at home who doesn't have a job and isn't working and doesn't care about anything because he's getting $2,000 a month to do nothing, then you shouldn't get tested. You should get tested only if you feel that you're getting the symptoms, right?
Right.
I don't get a test every year when I think I have the flu. I go to the doctor, and he says, you got the flu. Here, take some stupid Theraflu.
There are scarier things to be worried about at the beach, by the way, than the coronavirus. There was another shark attack who killed a California surfer over the weekend in Santa Cruz, California.
So there you have it. See,
So.
if he was in New Jersey,
I don't know statistically if I'm going to worry about a shark attack, but statistically, I'm more worried about a shark attack than I'm worried about listening to Peter King's advice. I will say that.
Well, who doesn't think that way? Come on, John. Last thing, of course, and that, of course, is the National Football League. Let's get it back to the players and the field and the game, because in the NBA, you got Mark Cuban and other owners saying no, 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 no. Baseball, you got the owners saying, yeah. Now the players will vote on it. And again, the last thing I've seen from the NFL is nothing. The commissioner, Dr. Fauci I gave you his quote. But what's the commissioner? What are you hearing from the leaders of the National Football League? Because I know they don't have to do anything. They can't have, the normal OTAs and that stuff. So players don't have to worry about it. They're working out on their own. But what about the organized team activities? And then as we get closer to training camp in 2 months, what are you hearing?
Well, the Commissioner, Roger Goodell, sent out that memo before the schedule was released and essentially told each organization, told each team, don't get into hypotheticals. So everybody, as we just talked about for a long period of time, how are you going to play this season? Is it going to be 16 games, 14 games, 12 games? They put out the 16-game schedule. They told each and every organization not to speculate, not to go into hypotheticals, not to say if this happens, that happens, and so forth. And I think we're at the point of the calendar where they can continue to do that. It's pretty evident there's not going to be an off-season at all. No OTAs, that's obvious. No mini camps, that's obvious. So you have to look at August 1st, essentially, late July, August 1st. Typically, that's when training camps start around the country. I think that's the date. That's the drop-dead date. And if they're not allowed to show up for some kind of training camp, even if it's scaled back, I think then you got to seriously discuss what's going to happen to this particular season.
Hey, John, Dak Prescott it seems to be the ever off-season drama as far as the contract is concerned. There's a rumor out there that there's a deal on the table, 5 years, $106 million guaranteed. But Prescott's camp wants a 4-year deal. What are you hearing about this, and does this get resolved?
Well, Kirk Cousins just gave him the advice that the franchise tag is not necessarily a bad thing, and nobody's been better at manipulating his contracts than Kirk Cousins. And I think that's where Dak Prescott is. I think the Cowboys made a mistake by not striking early, and that's what the NFL – I think a lot of fans don't understand. When you talk about high-priced contracts, it's about timing and it's about circumstance. It's not saying, okay, this is the best quarterback. This isn't the best quarterback. The bar gets set, and then the next guy goes above that bar, and so forth and so on. And that's what the Eagles have done very well, is they've seized things early and gotten team-friendly deals. Might not seem that way when they're signed, but now all of a sudden you see the Dallas Cowboys dealing with Dak Prescott, how much money they're going to have to pay him. It's going to be the highest-paid quarterback in the history of the NFL when he does sign his contract, the most guaranteed money. It's just a matter of when. But the Dallas Cowboys aren't letting him go. They're going to franchise tag him if they can't work out a long-term deal, and they'll continue to go down that path. So from Dak's perspective, though, there's no question. You want lesser years because you want to get back to free agency again. We go back to Kirk Cousins. That's what happened to him. He signed a 3-year deal, fully guaranteed, the first fully guaranteed deal in NFL history. And 2 years into it, he got an extension for more money. So, I mean, if you're looking at the template, look to Kirk Cousins.
You like that?
You like that. I like that. John McMullen, congratulations on the major promotion to King of the World.
And you're a king of the universe, so I'm still behind you.
I'm a master of the universe, not a king.
Is he off suspension officially
He's officially off suspension.
Right.
I am now, he didn't even have to apologize or beg for my forgiveness like that woman in the court in Dallas. John, we'll talk to you soon, brother. Again, congrats.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
The great John McMullen.